Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Stepping Up to the Plate. I'm your host, Michael Vega. So glad you could join us. So much to discuss this week. We're going to talk about the Patriots. We're going to talk about the Milton High football team, the change at the top at the Red Sox, the one that we kind of alluded to a week ago with Chaim Bloom and whether or not he'd still be around. And as it turns out, he's not going to be. And we'll talk a little bit the start of the Bruins training camp. And of course, we will talk a little bit maybe about Ryder Cup, which is going to be coming up a week from this week, in a week, I should say. At any rate, I want to thank my main man, Al Prizzuti, for joining us, Al. Exciting time in Milton. Shout out, first of all, to Coach Steve Dembowski and the Milton High football team. Tremendous win at home in their home opener against the Framingham Flyers. 42-0. Unbelievable. Guy who had a game for himself was none other than quarterback Patrick Miller. 5 touchdown passes, including 4 in the first half. And he had a connection with Luke Haley on a Hail Mary heave out into the end zone for a touchdown as time was expiring in the first half to make it 28-0. Unbelievable. And so great performances all the way around by the Wildcats, who now will travel to Holliston for a non-conference affair against the Holliston Panthers. And Holliston, a very good team. A lot of people view this as a kind of a barometer game for this Milton team. Milton, obviously, with great defensive performances up and down in that shutout, their first of the year, and coming off a very strong non-conference win that opened the season at Scituate, 42-14 down there. But
so if you think about what they've done, they've scored 90 points and given up 14.
Correct.
So their offense is percolating,
and
their
defense
is strong.
Yeah.
So you couldn't ask for a better start. Maybe not against the Iron, but we'll see what happens going forward. But you got to give the coach Dembowski credit. Is he had a lot of guys that left, seniors that moved on, and he has a group of kids that have come in that stepped in to do the job. So that's all you can ever ask. I mean, it's
and Al, one of the people that moved on was Owen McHugh, who went on to greater things over at Williams, and this past weekend led the Eves to a big come from behind victory. He had 2 touchdown passes and ran for another in a big 25-22 win over Colby there at home. And so shout out to Owen McHugh. We're still watching, and what a great athlete he is, and they're going to discover his greatness in short order out at Williams. And so congratulations to that young man. Outstanding individual. And Al, let me tell you, Saturday, college football Saturday, I had never witnessed anything like this game. I'd never witnessed anything like that day in Boulder, Colorado. Unbelievable. They started with one of the best college game days on ESPN I'd ever witnessed. It was emotionally wrought. It was the 40th or 400th pick by Lee Corso, right? And they did a great special piece on him. It brought him to tears. He recalled the stroke that he had and how his partner, Kirk Herbstreit, was always there and was very supportive. And he gave a shout out to Herbstreit and his wife and family. And you could see the emotion as they hugged. And oh my God, it was just an amazing, the number of celebrities that came out to Boulder. They had The Rock, right? The Rock, who used to play, and I've never seen this before. The Rock, who used to play outside linebacker, University of Miami, arrives on stage and surprises Deion Sanders, who used to be All-American at Florida State. So they used to be mortal enemies in college, Miami and Florida State. And here you had Deion Sanders genuflecting to The Rock as he got on stage with them. And The Rock paying him a high compliment for what he had done in terms of energizing that program, which a year ago was a moribund program, 1-11. Now they're 3-0, having beaten Colorado State in an unbelievable game for the ages. 45, I think it was, or 45-38. Unbelievable game. Unbelievable game. And Shedeur Sanders, let me tell you, I think he's going to be the second coming of Lamar Jackson. That guy's got clutch. He's got clutch genes in him, you know. And what a great quarterback. And after watching the Patriots, Al, segueing to the Patriots here, I could only wonder what it would be like if they had Shedeur Sanders in any of those situations that they found themselves at end of game against the Eagles, and of course at end of game in a loss to the Miami Dolphins. You know, and it's just, you know, mind-numbing to think that here we are at 0-2 now, and there's still a tough stretch that these guys are going to have to go through.
Well, I mean, they played two teams that are better than them. First of all, Philadelphia could win another Super Bowl.
Well, yeah.
And Miami is probably considered one of the better teams now that Aaron Rodgers isn't playing for the Jets in our division.
Yeah.
But what this team does that no Belichick, well, in the last few years, a lot of Belichick's teams have done is they go into the second half. Years ago, what Belichick would do, if they had a bad first half, he made the adjustment. They come out in the second half as a different team.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. In the last couple of years, it doesn't happen. And it didn't happen Sunday. And I understand that he might not have all the tools necessary with the offensive line.
Right.
Jones makes really bad decisions on where to throw the ball. He did it on one of the side passes where the Patriot receiver was on the inside and the Miami guy was on the outside, and the ball was more toward the outside, which is, I don't know how he could do that, but he did it.
Mm-hmm.
He overthrew, I forget who the receiver was.
Kendrick Bourne and Xavier Howard stepped in and made an interception.
10 yards beyond the guy. I mean, he had beaten his man, and Jones threw the ball another 10 yards.
Oh, yeah. I think it was DeMario Douglas.
Yeah, and so when you look at these things, and then every time they have an offensive play that works, they either have a holding, and it's brought down for a penalty. I don't know if I think they have a better chance of beating the Jets in New York because Aaron Rodgers isn't in there than they would have had Aaron Rodgers been playing.
Yeah.
But they could easily be 0-3, and if they're 0-3, you might as well forget about it. No team's ever come back from 0-2 at home and made the playoffs.
Yeah.
And they've lost the first two games at home.
Right.
This team is very similar, in my opinion, to the Red Sox. The Red Sox are not a good team, and I don't think I thought the Patriots.
When did you come to that realization, Al?
Well, I think what the Red Sox should do is because I can't watch it anymore because all the announcers want to do is talk about stupid. They should put Bozo the Clown in there as a color guy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to watch.
It's hard to watch.
And
but let's stay on the Patriots though, because you're
watching the Patriots. It's hard to watch that team because they don't have the tools to come from behind. They don't.
Right.
And if they fall back like they did against the Eagles, 17-0, they were 16-0
at that point. Yeah.
So you're down 33 in 2 games, and they don't have the necessary guys that can get them out of it. Now, Jones can't throw the ball long. I forget what I heard that he was 0 for 22 on balls over 20 yards.
And that one ball that I described was sideline. They're trying to go vertical along the boundary, and he threw it. He underthrew it, and Bourne was his defender Xavier Howard had come underneath him. So Howard did what any good defensive back is told to do: is get yourself between your man and the ball. Don't get beat deep. And Howard was in position to make the interception because the ball was underthrown.
Right.
And I sat there, to your point, Al. I said there had to have been a better decision to be made there, because all you had to do was get a first down.
Right.
You didn't need the touchdown at that point.
Right.
Get the first down. I'm a big proponent that if it's third and manageable, get the manageable and then reset and then take your shot. Don't take your shot on third and manageable and walk off the field thinking, wow, we could have got a first down.
I actually feel somewhat bad for the kid because I don't.
He's in his third different offense, really.
This is his third year, but
and his third different offense.
Yeah, but you got to remember one thing. O'Brien was the guy that was supposed to come in and change.
And he did
the scheme. Yeah,
he has.
But what they haven't been able to do is adapt. Look at that Miami team. You know, this kid was a drop back quarterback. What they said was he was a drop back like Brady, drop back. He's better when he runs out of the pocket, going left and right. He's been much better at that when he sets up and has time. First of all, he doesn't see any secondary receivers. He looks for the prime guy. He's focused on the prime guy. And then if it's over 20 yards, he's always high, always high. So here's the hard part for him. If they go in the first half and do the same thing against the Jets, Belichick's hands are going to be tied as O'Brien's will be when they might take him out and put Zappy in. Then the kid's head is gone. And you know what?
You got to roll with him right now. You got to roll. Well,
at that point they'll look.
But here's the other thing too, Al. The dilemma they face is that you really don't have a veteran presence right now in your quarterback room.
Well, Carroll,
and you got to have. I think you got to have one there in order to make sure that the line of succession, if anything happens to Mac Jones, that Bailey's not. It is going to be your only solution.
Carroll back yesterday.
Okay.
So here's what I think that to me that says something. Is now we got Zappy and Carroll, and we need it.
Yeah.
So I think that's a tacit agreement that he might not be the guy.
Or he may not be there.
And he might not be there.
Because of the offensive line. They're seeing these guys. Calvin Richardson, I don't know how many times he got beat inside. You know, I mean, it was unbelievable.
But if you watch those players, when they get beat, they should concentrate on, and I'm sure
But Al, let me tell you something. Those two defensive lines they faced in the first 2 weeks are probably the best in the league. Yeah. Probably right up there with the Niners. You know,
but let me say this: those two defensive lines may be the best two in the league against the worst offensive line, which makes it much more easy to get by. So, are they that good, or are they up against an offensive line that stinks? So,
I think you know both things can be true at once.
And I think they are both true, and that's the problem. So you get a team that's okay with their defensive line; they're still going to make the Patriots offensive line look bad.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Jones suffers because the offensive line isn't good, but so do the running backs.
Yeah. And conversely, I think because the Patriots' offensive line is suspect and I think wanting for better players, it makes your average defensive line look all world.
You know, I'm not a Chris Collingsworth guy, but he was absolutely correct on Hunter Henry's over the 5 yards where he was blocking. That wasn't, they should have called that back. And so you take the 7 points away on that, and the Patriots aren't even in the game. And then the last play, I mean, you got to give them credit. They had the ball. The guy threw the pass back to, what's his name, Strong? Who was the guy the offensive lineman?
Cole Strange.
Yeah. That kid tried his heart out. And
I thought he had the first down.
And they
I thought he had the first down. I don't know how the heck they could overrule it, but
you know when it goes
Collinsworth though and Tirico, they both had
a return. They're going to.
They looked down the line because it was at a part of the field that wasn't marked.
The problem is we only can see it from the angle that they have in the booth.
Right.
And when you see it, you didn't know if his knee was down. And what the NFL will be looking at is different angles and whatnot. So I'm sure that they called it correctly. The game's over at that point. But you know what? Holding your breath, even if he made the first down, doesn't mean they're going to go and
score. But it gives you a shot out. You have a shot. You have a shot.
They've had a chance, and it's got to be debilitating to this team. Look at two things have happened after every game. Everybody goes, well, we're a better team than what we've shown. We understand that. And Jones got to stop saying, I own this. Because you can only own
Right.
Zero.
He owns that last one.
He wants everybody to go, I'm taking responsibility for this. Well, yeah, right, but you're losing every week. So at some point they're going to say...
So you start calling out guys?
No, I think no, he can't do that. What's going to happen here is...
he made a veiled reference to that.
Belichick's job is on the line because he's going to retire.
No doubt. They'll retire him.
They'll retire him, and because Kraft was just going to say, you know what, we'll put O'Brien in there, or we'll go get somebody else.
I think O'Brien is here because he's the next guy.
Could be.
I think he's here because he's the next guy.
Look, and if I look at the professional sports team in Boston, 2-3 years ago, you had 4 teams. Bruins were the best team in the league last year. Mm-hmm. You thought that the Red Sox were, going to come in back. You had the Celtics, which is, you only got one professional team that has any chance of winning a championship, and that's the Celtics.
What about the Bruins?
No. The Patriots don't. The Bruins don't have a chance to win the Stanley Cup. If they didn't win it last year, and they've lost Bergeron, Krejci, Hall, Connor Clifton. They've lost a lot of guys. So everybody that has to step up, like Shattenkirk and Van Riemsdyk and guys like that,
Milan Lucic,
they got mileage.
They got a lot of mileage.
It's got to be 105. He's Methuselah. So I think they'll make the playoffs. The Bruins, and I love the team, but I don't see them winning a Stanley Cup. Now, that could surprise me because now everybody's talking about Swayman being the guy that's going to take over as the goalie. And not Linus. I will say
your Vezina Trophy winner is going to be going back to the bench.
If you look at his career, though, he was an average goaltender with a poor team in Buffalo. He came here and had a great year because he had a great defense. So Swayman can do the same thing.
Right.
So you've got a $5 million hit on this kid, Linus. He makes $5 million.
Yeah.
So there's a kid that can go, give him some cap space, and they'll get a center because they need centers.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The Bruins are going to start their training camp today.
Yeah.
And
will you get over there?
I'd love to.
Yeah. That'd be interesting. That'd be a great
team. I think we might have mentioned this on the show before, but we did have, I'm a member of Blue Hill Country Club. We had Marchand and Charlie Coyle came up to the club.
Oh, yeah.
And played. And I was literally surprised at how big Charlie Coyle is.
Yeah, he's 6'4".
But when you see him on the ice up again, sometimes maybe it's Chara that makes everybody look small.
He does.
But Charlie Coyle is big, and he's a pretty muscular kid. Bigger than I thought. Marchand is small. So here's Marchand, here's Charlie Coyle. And it was interesting to see. A lot of them, when they come up and play, the kid, Krug, when he came up to play, he is big in his thighs and his rear end. That's a defense.
I harken back. It reminds me of a story I remember was with the Bruins in the Eastern Conference Finals at Pittsburgh, and literally bumping into Sidney Crosby in the hallway. I couldn't believe the size of this guy's thighs. They're massive. I mean, I thought, wow, this guy could be like a fullback in the NFL. Mm-hmm. That's how big. I mean, he could have been Jason Varitek. He had Varitek was like that too. Yeah.
But if you look at some of these athletes now, and you take a look, I saw that the Bruins had a golf tournament, a special I think it was for some foundation. And Ray Bork. Now, when you see Ray Bork when he played, he was leaner.
Oh,
he's a big. Look at Cam Neely. Now, I watched the game the other night, 1988, Bruins against the Devils.
Don Sweeney was on the ice?
O'Reilly was the coach.
Yeah.
But Cam Neely and Fred Cusick was still in the game, and the best. 88. They beat...
Bergeron wouldn't have been there, had he? He might have been a rookie.
He might have been, but Craig Janney. They beat the Devils in this game to go to the next level and play in the finals against, unfortunately, the Edmonton Oilers that had Wayne Gretzky because they went out 4 straight.
I remember that.
But when you see guys like Craig Janney, Cam Neely was a tremendous player.
Yeah.
I mean, he not only was shifty, could score goals.
Who was in net? Andy Moog?
No. Moog was the backup. Lemelin was
Reggie
Lemelin.
Oh, yeah.
So it was interesting to watch the difference in style. The Bruins are much more of a bruising team.
Then, yeah.
And skating wasn't. Today, guys skate and
avoid contact. These guys played to contact.
Now, Lucic could have played on the '88 team.
No doubt.
But
Sean Thornton could have played on that team.
I'm happy that they do have Lucic for one reason. When they play like a team against Washington, and the kid there for Washington that wants to kill everybody, Bruins never had anybody that would step up against them. So I think that's a good thing. I think the Bruins will probably surprise a lot of people because I think Monty's a good guy. They like playing for him. They like his style.
Sure.
They didn't lose. Look at they lost 60, 70 goals between Bergeron, Krejci, and Hall.
Yeah.
Which is tough to replace.
Yeah.
But so they might not be as an offensive team, but you got to remember they still have a pretty good defense with Brandon Carlo. They got McAvoy,
Lindholm.
They got Lindholm. They've got Grzelcyk. They still have, and they got Forbett. They have a decent defense. So if they don't score as much, it might not be as bad. I think they'll be second to Toronto.
Toronto's unbelievable.
Well, Toronto can't win, so I'm happy with that.
But boy, they have an assembly of.
They have to go over the line. For them, it's a psychological thing. If they make it over that line, in other words, win a couple of series,
they could be the Florida Panthers.
They could be.
Yeah, they caught fire and they get into the tournament.
But again, the only team that if you're going to step back and if you're a gambler and say who am I putting my money on, it would be the Celtics because they're loaded. They're still loaded.
I believe, and I think they're built for the future now with the commitments that they've made to both Jaylen Brown and the commitment they will likely make to Jason Tatum.
Jason is
and the way, segging to the Celtics here, I mean, the way they've kind of constructed this team now to, incorporate some size, a rim protector, and a guy who's offensively efficient in Porzingis. And, you marry him with Al Horford, with Rob Williams. Yeah. We lose Grant Williams. I didn't like, how I feel about Marcus Smart. It's my dog. Yeah. Marcus Smart, man, right here, baby. I will always love him, man. And
the problem with Porzingis is he's been hurt every step of the way. Yeah. So if he's not out there and Williams is hurt every step of the way, that could be an Achilles heel.
Well, they do have some answers. They have some people there, and then they can play differently too. I mean, they can go up and down the court. You still have a guy, Derek White, capable.
Oh, Derek White's a player.
I love him. Love him. He's a guy that I think deserves a start. Maybe Peyton Pritchard.
Well, Peyton Pritchard's going to play a bigger role this year than
no doubt
in the past.
No doubt.
He said he wants to stay here, and then
I think got a decent team. You know what? I think they definitely need to keep him here.
Yeah, I do too.
And I'd love to see that. We'll see Mazzulla whether his coaching style remains consistent or if he changes a little bit.
He is Jones as a coach. if the half of the season they're not playing well, he's gone.
Unbelievable. So you mean if they start out 0-2, you're going to fire him?
No. If they get at the halfway point, everybody uses this at January 1st. If they're struggling, they're going to say he's not the guy to get us there to the promised land.
Well, they've already made that commitment to him. They made that commitment to him.
Commitments in sports is what?
Yeah.
Somebody gets up in the morning and has a cup of coffee and it doesn't taste right. Well, we got to fire this guy.
Yeah, cup of coffee.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, it seems like, in segging to the Red Sox, Chaim Bloom was here for a bit of a cup of coffee, a sour taste for him.
4 years of coffee.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Big mistake with Chaim Bloom. What they did was they bet that he could build up the farm system and maintain
a competitive team on the team. You cannot,
and you couldn't do it because they had a substantial amount of injuries.
But Al, I'll ask you this: if you're Chaim Bloom, Do you feel like you got, sold a bill of goods by this ownership staff?
No.
Because they told you, we need to pair payroll and we want you to get rid of Mookie Betts.
No.
So now you're coming in as the fall guy. Do you think he feels like he got set up as the fall guy?
The big problem for Chaim Bloom was, you're right. When the Red Sox said, "Look, we're not going to pay all this money to certain guys like Mookie." Okay, that was the huge mistake.
Big mistake.
Because Mookie Betts is a better ball player all around than Devers. If you want to build, and now they're talking about Devers being the linchpin of their
the cornerstone piece of this. Yeah,
Mookie Betts would have been. Mookie Betts will hit as many home runs. He'll hit for a higher average. He can play second. He can play the outfield. Devers can hit, average, so-so. He hits for power. He locks in a lot of runs. He's a terrible third baseman.
Yeah.
So if you're going to build a cornerstone, it would have been Mookie Betts. They let Hunter Renfroe go, who hit 29, 30 home
Kyle
runs.
Schwarber.
They let Schwarber go, who hit another 44 home runs for the Phillies. And they let Evaldi go, who was the best pitcher for Texas.
Michael Wacha.
Yeah. So they've
serviceable. Hey, what would this team been with Michael Wacha and Evaldi and Bello and maybe Pivetta? Pivetta might have been able to stay in the rotation.
So the question is it a combination of Chaim Bloom and Cora? Because I don't think Cora, very difficult to be a manager of the Red Sox.
Well, especially
for a number of reasons.
Yeah, and I thought there was maybe a bit of a revolt that he staged in game when they called up this kid Kyle Barraclaw from Worcester. He was not going to be the answer on that day to relieve a spent bullpen and a bunch of tired arms in that bullpen.
Yeah.
So they basically served him up in that game. I believe it was to the Rangers.
They would have been better off taking Devers for crying out loud and let him pitch.
Yeah. I mean, have a positional player.
Take a catcher and throw him out there who has a pretty decent arm and could throw a fastball at least.
Or at least locate something, right?
But
you looked at the face that he had after Barraclaw walked the first batter, second batter, third batter, then hit another one, then allowed I don't know how many runs to come in. And they kept looking at the bullpen and there was no action. And then you look at Cora and Cora's sitting there going, okay, this is what it is. I took that, Al, as a shot across the bow at the man upstairs who put this roster into place.
Well, I'll tell you what I would have done if I was either Chaim Bloom or Cora, because the Red Sox, forget that when they knew at the All-Star break that this team didn't have it.
Yeah.
Okay, they were betting that Sale was going to come back. I would have said, get everybody from the Woo Sox that we think is the future and let them play, and take all those guys and say, sit down.
Yeah. Now, the question here in our last minute, Al, is who replaces Chaim Bloom? A number of names of face has come up. We've heard about Eddie Romero. He has a connection to the franchise. His dad played here. He has served under previous, GMs.
With the Phillies for a while.
He was with the Phillies. And he was instrumental in the development of the Dominican.
The internal leading candidate. I also think the lady, I forget her name.
Raquel.
I think my opinion is they could, if they look at both and say there's a Romero, there's Raquel gets the job.
Yeah. And you know what? It would be prescient for them. Another one has been Mike Hazen, who is currently with the Diamondbacks. He had been here in this organization. A lot of people are excited about the buzz that he could create if he were to return to Boston. Yeah. But a lot of names
still. Got to get rid of Bush. Got to get rid of the pitching coach because I don't think
that's probably going to happen.
His job is to make average pitches better pitches better, and he doesn't.
Right. So he'll probably be gone.
I think he should be gone anyway.
All righty. Well, that's it for us, and we're going to be gone. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week here on Stepping Up the Plate. I want to thank my main man, Al Prizzuti. I'm Michael Vega. Looking forward to seeing you next time on Stepping Up to the Plate. Take care, everybody. All righty.